Hi, I'm Phoebe. I'm going to talk a little bit about my junior year. Junior year was certainly one that test me and forced me to grow in many ways, whether I wanted to or not. It was the year that I learned that life is not fair, that people who are supposed to be there for you are going to fail you, going to hurt you, that people who are supposed to love you are not always going to, that you can give someone your all and be the best friend you can possibly be, and they will still disregard your friendship and leave you disappointed. I learned that for the sake of family, you have to be the bigger person and take the high road, the one, as my mother would say, with the best view. I learned to hold back tears and plaster a smile to my face for the sake of keeping the peace. I learned that as sweet as it is to be right, proving such a thing through revenge only left a further wake of destruction. I learned that I was a lot stronger than I ever gave myself credit for. I learned that sometimes you have to offer forgiveness even when there is no apology given. That to hold the anger inside and wait for an apology is usually a fruitless and self-destructive effort. In turn, I also learned that I myself was not perfect, and that I was liable for just as many transgressions as there were committed against me. I learned that as strong as I was, my strong personality also left me with an incredible power to hurt those around me, to hurt people I really cared about. I spent the last half of junior year hurting a friend who had always been there for me, something I should have known better than to do, as someone had ruined me by doing the exact same thing. Additionally, it was here that my faith faltered. I have never been an overly outward person when it comes to my beliefs. I believe in God, and I think Jesus is pretty awesome and everything, and I'm all about being a nice person. I prayed when I needed to, and had never considered there to have been a time when I really needed God. But following the turmoil that was most of my junior year, and being surrounded by all these incredibly God-inspired people, I began to question why I felt so distant. I was questioning why, if God loved me so much, he would be continuously throwing my way people who failed me or didn't love me. I gave these people my all, my everything, and God continued to let them be people who walked all over me. As it was happening, I would cry myself to sleep, uttering those words, "Everything happens for a reason." But I never actually believed them. It wasn't until later, until everything was over and the storm had passed, that I was able to look back and see the reason things had happened. Through all that pain and all the complete and utter crap I had accepted, I had become a stronger person. Ideally, I was also a better person. I learned from the example exactly the kind of person I never wanted to be. I learned that through all the time I had felt like I was the one suffering the loss, the people who had hurt me were the only ones losing now, as they were the ones who hadn't taken what I had offered, that being unconditional forgiveness and love. My grandfather had told me that some things you learn best in the calm and others in the storm. It had been a storm for sure, but calm seas don't make a strong sailor, and an easy life does not make a stronger person. It only makes a complacent one. God knew what he was doing, and he did it for a reason. I make it sound as if junior year was some horrendous time, and this isn't accurate. Junior year did have its ups. It was during junior year that I discovered who two of my favorite teachers were. There was Mrs. McTavish. As she says, she gets me. It was in her World Lit class that I found myself actually interested in reading again, eager to learn and expand my mind. She challenged me to be better and read books I didn't want to read. She helped me to become a stronger writer, and her comments on my paper never failed to make me laugh. Mrs. McTavish encouraged me to be myself, to not let people call me moody, but to insist that I was just spunky and full of life. She was especially helpful throughout senior year. I, as most do, fell victim to senioritis, and my case was quite severe. But Mrs. McTavish understood and was willing to accommodate my moodiness and annoyance, which was always amplified by the time I reached her class at the end of the day. She did indeed get me, and it was a relief to know that I had someone on my side as I covered the